Oh man, it's been a while since I've been in here. I love Star Wars. As stereotypical as it may sound, I have loved Star Wars since, well, as long as I can remember. I thought I had a memory of watching it for the first time at age 4 with a special edition VHS. But thanks to old family home videos, I was already watching it way before. I can see myself talking about Darth Vader and Yoda from age 2 or 3. It's just been a part of me this whole time. So much of my life's events are connected to Star Wars in some way. You could say I have been working on a video like this my whole life. And this may seem a bit familiar to Cinema Wins and his Everything Great About videos, of which I am a huge fan. But this list of everything that I love about Star Wars is personal, a unique experience that I can draw upon being 25 and having seen it more times than I can count. There might be a few criticisms here and there, but this is part and parcel with love itself. So let's get started. Just by changing kingdom to galaxy in this sentence, everything is different. This isn't science fiction, it's space fantasy, long before straight fantasy was perfectly realized on screen by the Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter films, which are both 20 years old this December. Oh, God, I'm old. Also, this line means that this is a preface of a story being told by other entities. A story of a story. Is that too layered? Will we ever actually see who's telling the story? I don't know, but it's fascinating that it's there. That always gives me a jolt of energy. Every single movie, every single time. Not only is the opening crawl a direct throwback to film serials of the 1940s and 50s and how they would update audiences on the story so far, but it continues a trend for George Lucas in his filmography. His first feature, THX 1138, begins with a clip from a Buck Rogers episode, juxtaposing two very different versions of the not-too-distant future. Then with his next film, American Graffiti, Lucas looks back to the time of his youth and reflects on what his life has been so far. With Star Wars, he looks even further back and farthest away to something unknown and finds some deeper meaning of storytelling and mythology. It's moving backwards to go forwards. John Williams. We're going to have a second counter for every mention of music throughout this series. You have to. You know what Star Wars is because of the music. From the opening, it blends Eric Wolfgang Korngold's King's Row with Williams' composing hero, Gustav Holst. We are in familiar territory here of the bombast and classic nature of 40s film and serials. It isn't the alienating artificial score that defines the tone and atmosphere for sci-fi films like Forbidden Planet and Logan's Run, nor is it a wild mix of mood from classical music that creates the ethereal nature of 2001: A Space Odyssey. I do not think I've ever once not read the entire opening crawl from start to finish. I can't help it. It's so investing. Thank you, Brian De Palma and Jay Cox. A reveal so iconic that it defined generations. And we're gonna need a third counter for Ben Burtt and his incredible sound design. In true Kurosawa and specifically the Hidden Fortress form, we begin at the tail end of massive conflict with two low-level individuals caught up in the chaos and madness. I love that the rebels are so obviously out of their depth. Shirts and cargo pants with tiny blasters against the others. It has been said before, and it will be said again, the age of this universe. These two have seen some things. They've been around. The grime and dirt that covers them and makes what could have been classic movie robots all pristine and shiny and makes them feel real. Just like Monstro swallowing Geppetto's boat, the Devastator consumes the Tantive 4, and yes, it is pronounced Tantive. I can distinctly remember watching this hallway breach, or at least playing it out, hundreds of times before school as a kid. The blasters just aren't stupid ray guns, they're roaring weapons of war. I couldn't have been the only one who thought C-3PO and R2-D2 just blew up right then. Darth Vader, a black-clad cyber samurai warlord ripped straight from a nightmare. If it wasn't obvious, he's the bad guy.
R2-D2, where are you?
Two iconic and important themes blended together to introduce our princess. From light comes darkness, and from darkness, light. Knowing later that Force choke exists and is a preference for Vader, he still goes out of his way to choke Captain Antilles with his hands. The late great David Prowse creating the form of Vader, the strides and full body movements that feel so natural and powerful. And then James Earl Jones gives Vader his true power.
Commander, tear this ship apart until you found those plans and bring me the passengers. I want them alive!
A voice so almost inhuman and purely evil, it is a perfect symbiosis of performance from multiple angles. Probably doesn't help that as much as my memories are attached to watching these movies and obsessing over details, the scenes and characters are now forever attached to Robot Chicken and Family Guy parodies.
There's one. Set for stun.
He said stun! It wasn't gonna hurt ya! He said stun!
So much character with these two, just from their movements. It's weird, but also so recognizably human in a way. That's just good puppetry.
There goes another one.
Hold your fire. There's no life forms. It must have short-circuited.
I know this bit is a little too convenient, but there is a story in From a Certain Point of View called The Sith of Data Work that gives a rather hilarious explanation for it. There's that 2001 influence again. Enough gets talked about George Lucas pulling from World War II footage, Kurosawa, Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon, but 2001 must be in that conversation for just the ship photography. You know what? I'll save it for a much clearer parallel later on. Even the grime and imperfections, sometimes so subtle, on the Stormtrooper's armor and Vader's helmet just adds so much.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm a member of the Imperial Senate on a diplomatic mission to Alderaan.
Leia's resolute defiance and stubbornness encapsulated perfectly in her first lines of dialogue.
We seem to be made to suffer. What mission? What are you talking about? I've just about had enough of you. Go that way. You'll be malfunctioning within a day, you nearsighted scrap pile.
So much character from inhuman things.
Hey, are we actually arguing? I don't fucking know!
Stravinsky's Rite of Spring much? Knowing what we know now, that's probably a baby crate dragon. Good lord, I feel sorry for Anthony Daniels and Kenny Baker, stuck in a shiny plastic suit and a metal and wood bucket in the middle of the Tunisian desert. Sun is directly on them at times. That's dedication to your weird art. One of the only times Lucas and cinematographer Gilbert Taylor employ a handheld camera, of course, emphasizing R2's danger, and that's incredible seeing as he's not human. It's the kind of choice that shows how much Lucas wanted us to actually feel for this little rust bucket. Wherever you turn, to whichever strange corner of the galaxy you travel to, there's always something surviving, even in the most barren and desolate landscapes.
Life, finds a way.
I love a good gonk droid. So simple and cruddy and crappy and it's so good. I love these stupid little droids, they're always so fun. Did 3PO just blink? And here's our first major retroactive change. I don't think it looks too bad. The first shot is okay, and that one's not, that's not good. This new shot of the sandcrawler moving across the sand is actually far better than the old one. I always thought this little bit of a Jawa's cloak looked like Darth Vader. I think I was a bit too imaginative as a kid. Luke Skywalker's introduction is full of life and hope and a spring in the step, even against these plains of nothingness. He's wistful, as if
All his life he looked away.
but with a heroic streak at the core. Tatooine. Endless sand flats, moisture collectors dotting the surface, a homestead burrowing underground for safety, and massive machines crossing the deserts. This, and a passing reference before to
the spice mines of Kessel.
would be the closest thing to a Dune adaptation fans would get until 1984, and even then, they were still left wanting.
Can you speak Bocce?
Of course I can, sir. It's like a second language to me. I'm as
All
fluent
right,
in-
shut up. I'll
Uncle Owen's general distaste for 3PO is hilarious. I recently lost a bet to my dad over 3PO muttering,
Shutting up, sir.
he insisted that 3PO did say that, and I was confident in my denial. As a result, I was proven spectacularly wrong in front of the family, bonked on the head with a spoon, don't worry, I was laughing too, and can never forget the line and am now obliged to include it here.
I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
Yeah, Luke is real whiny here, but Mark Hamill does admit that, and I believe it is intentional. R2's little waddle is so cute, he just wants to be with his friend. Incredible how everything changes because of R5D4. We've all felt that overwhelming need to get out. Any excuse will do.
Just isn't fair. Oh, Biggs is right. I'm never gonna get out of here. Teleport me off this rock. If there's a bright center to the universe, you're on the planet that it's farthest from.
Where are you going?
Looks like I'm going nowhere.
I love this shot.
Who is she? She's beautiful.
Yeah, she is.
No, I don't think he likes you at all. No, I don't like you either.
R2 is loyal to something greater than himself, but still just wants people to like him. It's so relatable.
Oh, I stumbled across a recording while I was cleaning him. He says he belongs to someone called Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Ooh, that look that Owen and Beru share, so much in that.
You go to the academy next year. You must understand I need you here, Luke.
But it's a whole nother year.
I definitely feel for this
Look, it's only one more season.
thing. When you just can't wait to be free, sometimes it always feels like one more year.
Luke's just not a farmer, Owen. He has too much of his father in him.
That's what I'm afraid of.
What more can be said about the binary sunset scene? It really is the defining image of the entire franchise, the pain of hope, knowing there is far more beyond the stars that can ever be found on the ground because you can see it. There's two suns, but there is always more inside, and Luke is yet to really find that, and it's such a human moment to help ground everything we've seen so far. Also, thank you Dursu Uzula. Is that a Mercedes? Was Luke just spinning around on the spot? Did 3PO duck out of his way? Pretty sure whatever Aunt Beru is making will be inedible. Also, Aunt Beru's costume is the cheapest out of anyone in Star Wars. None of this robes and tunics business. Just a denim jacket and a flared collared shirt and an ugly pattern straight out of the Midwest. Good enough. Fixing the Landspeeder's shadow was a great choice. Those poor elephants.
Sand people, or worse. Come on, let's go have a look. Come on.
Luke is so excited for adventure that he'll just settle on spying on dangerous bandits with guns.
There's two sons and no women. What the hell am I supposed to do?
Why have we never explored the fact that the Force can make you imitate creature noises so perfectly it scares off others? It never comes back in any of the other movies and shows or anything. Sir Alec Guinness said it first.
Hello there.
Mysticism, magic, and mystery, we now have our supernatural aid.
He claims to be the property of an Obi-Wan Kenobi. Is he a relative of yours? Do you know who he's talking about?
Oh, that look, the music, having to sit down because the last person to have used that name was probably Darth Vader himself. So damn good.
Oh, he's not dead. Not yet.
Well, you know him.
Well, of course I know him. He's me.
The playfulness and gravitas that Sir Alec brought is unmatched. A brilliant actor committing perfectly. I will always wonder what this would have been like with Toshiro Mifune, but what we got is perfect. Always loved this little synchronized wipe.
That's what your uncle told you. He didn't hold with your father's ideals, thought he should have stayed here and not gotten involved.
Is Obi-Wan just lying to Luke about Owen? Have they ever actually talked? Oh, we might see that soon. I never fully understood what Obi-Wan says here. It's something industry crusade?
He feared you might follow old Obi-Wan on some damn fool idealistic crusade like your father did. Your father's lightsaber. This is the weapon of a Jedi Knight. Not as clumsy or random as a blaster.
A truly elegant weapon. Such power, majesty, and true awe emanating from just some crude animation of a stick covered in projector screen and glued into the flash rod from a Graflex camera. I want 50 of them.
You fought in the Clone Wars?
I was once a Jedi Knight, the same as your father. He was the best star pilot in the galaxy. And a cunning warrior, and he was a good friend. For over 1,000 generations, the Jedi Knights were the guardians of peace and justice in the Old Republic, before the Dark Times, before the Empire.
How did my father die?
A young Jedi named Darth Vader helped the Empire hunt down and destroy the Jedi Knights. He betrayed and murdered your father. Vader was seduced by the dark side of the Force.
So much is learnt in one conversation, and the power he puts into
the Force.
This is why Sir Alec Guinness was nominated for the Best Supporting Actor Oscar in 1978.
The Force is what gives the Jedi his power. It's an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us and penetrates us. It binds the galaxy together.
So Vader was seduced by the dark side of the thing that is created by all living things. Ergo, Vader was seduced by death. And this is our first real piece of exposition, something pretty important for any film set inside a world as dense as this one. Luke isn't clueless about the world around him, which gets us more interested in his character, but he still has a lot to learn as we do. We learn so much in this one dialogue, and we're not overburdened with information. Obi-Wan has been watching over Luke his entire life. He knows this kid and has all the faith in him. But fans of the series bring so much history into this original film retroactively. Obi-Wan could have easily forgot about Padme and Luke's sister until he sees the face right there. With the same fire and determination that Padme held until her death, the memories that must be flooding back for this character, the pain of such a thing, of seeing Leia. It may not have been Lucas's direct intention, but there is a beauty in hindsight.
You must learn the ways of the Force, if you're to come with me to Alderaan.
Alderaan?
Now Luke is faced with an actual adventure, a real chance to do something he's always wanted to, and rejects it. It's the refusal of the call. Why? Because he does actually care more than he'd like to realize about his immediate loved ones. How can you choose between love and life? The feeling of wishing himself away yet being firmly loyal to love is a core component of Luke. But is it for the best or the worst? You really do feel Luke's frustration, and you trust Obi-Wan implicitly. Love how that monstrous ship that was so big in the beginning, dominating an entire movie frame, is now dwarfed by the true galactic demon that is the Death Star.
Nazis in space.
I have just received word that the Emperor has dissolved the Council permanently.
Who is this Emperor? There's someone higher than Vader? The Dune influence is strong with this one. Peter Cushing as Grand Moff Wilf Tarkin adds another layer of gravitas already set rather high by Sir Alec Guinness.
Regional governors now have direct control over their territories. We will then crush the rebellion with one swift stroke.
Those pronunciations are to die for. I love how Vader is kept mostly away from a central frame until he needs to speak. It's like he's always there, watching over everything.
The plans you referred to will soon be back in our hands. The ability to destroy a planet is insignificant next to the power of the Force.
And we get a real understanding of the duality of the Force. One side describes it as a binding energy that evokes peace and harmony. The other side sees it as a power greater than destroying a planet. Excellent cutting. That's some good neck acting. I love how stone-faced Admiral Yularen is in the background. This guy's probably not the first person to sit in that chair, run his mouth off, and suffer the consequences. Oh, poor Jawas.
Only Imperial stormtroopers are so precise.
I think the stormtroopers can't shoot anything jokes are really stale now. It's such an easy and boring joke to make. Where did they even come from? We see at the beginning of the movie, stormtroopers are just killing rebels left, right, and center. The land speeder effect is still really convincing. It's just mirrors, wheels, and a couple of burly grips bouncing the model up and down. This is our first moment of seeing how truly dark the Empire really is. That they'll murder innocents. The one place that Luke trusted in this whole planet to love and shelter him, despite his desire to be free, is reduced to ash. The ground where he not too long ago stood and wished to join the stars is now scorched worse than anything that twin suns could have done. Can you really go on from this? What choice do you have? The cruel hand of fate has made the choice for Luke Skywalker. Ships that scream? How evil are these guys? Oh, Darth Vader is torturing a teenager and secret daughter just after his minions incinerated innocents. And they're Nazis. Right, so they're that evil. It shouldn't be so funny how 3PO is just dumping Jawa bodies onto a massive bonfire. I guess grief and funeral etiquette isn't a part of his programming. Obi-Wan is there to lend an honest hand to Luke, even though he knew without anyone telling him. Luke just accepts that. He has to trust this man. He's got no one left. I do like the change of having distant shots of Mos Eisley be more active, showing that it is a bustling spaceport with ships landing and leaving. And read that correctly, I said distant. Because these CG changes with all these goofy shots of background characters getting into hijinks are useless, and they pull off camera moves that break the kind of filmmaking the film was already sticking by. THX 1138's director's cut has the same problem. The original shots aren't amazing, but there's an effective simplicity that the next two movies, the sequels, and The Mandalorian stick to.
Let me see your identification.
You don't need to see his identification.
Ah, Force Mind Trick. Probably the cheapest Force power ever. Ah, the Cantina is another one of those moments people go back to when talking about how weird and gross and bizarre Star Wars can really be. Like I said with the Jawas, in the deep, dark corners of every place you can turn in this galaxy, 100 creatures are surviving and hustling, filling up those spaces. Before all of this, aliens in science fiction had just been bad rubber masks and painted skin. Even in this movie, most of what we got up until this point was just a bunch of hooded little people and ragged up bandits. Now, it's full alien pride. Light up a weird hashish pipe and drink strange liquids served in cheap Tupperware cups that probably taste awful thanks to sitting all day under hot studio lights. Be all you are in grotesque glory. But no droids.
We don't serve their kind here.
Wait, no droids? Is there robot racism in this universe? Well, we already have space Nazis running the show, so it's not surprising that people aren't exactly, friendly to their fellow man bot. Chewbacca! Oh man, how could anyone see this guy and not have the irresistible urge to give him a big warm hug? He's so cuddly, he's like a 7-foot plush toy.
I'm Pignose, and this is my brother-in-law, Scott. He's visiting from Hoth.
I don't know why they call it Hoth. They should call it cold.
Okay, settle down.
3 moves and Obi-Wan's already taken out 2 people armed to the teeth and ready for a fight. Figuring Dan and the modal nodes playing some good old jizz. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah.
Han Solo. I'm captain of the Millennium Falcon.
Man, Harrison Ford is the best. Look at this man. He's endless cool.
It's a ship that made the Kessel run in less than 12 parsecs.
Isn't a parsec a unit of distance, not time?
Wait.
In a galaxy ruled by evil, crime runs rampant in the outskirts and no one blinks. A wonderful reinvigoration of Western tropes. Perfect understanding despite speaking different languages? Sure, why not?
Yes, I bet you have.
Shoot first, answer questions later. And yes, Han shot first.
Sorry about the mess.
Ah, old Penis Nose with munted John Wayne voice. I know he has a name, I just like to call him Penis Nose, because that's a bit of a weird choice. Did anyone else notice that the wall has the number 94 carved into it? Because I didn't until very recently. R2-D2's true nemesis, stairs. It's so hilariously clear that only half of the Millennium Falcon set was constructed. There's no top turret, and there's no communications dish. There's not even a second mandible. The room is just way too small and everyone on set just said, no one will notice. George Lucas spent millions adding all these new CG pieces to realize things he couldn't do back in 1976, but he has never thought about, I don't know, adding more ship? It is my curse to never unsee it, and now it is yours as well. Still, goddamn, I love this ship, even if it is a
Piece of junk.
She may not look like much, but she's got it where it counts, kid.
Love the Han Solo driving gloves. My granddad actually drove with a pair well into his 70s, and he was driving a Datsun. I'm sure those gold-painted dice will have no importance at all in the future. We never see Chewbacca actually get in the co-pilot seat because Peter Mayhew couldn't fit.
Stop that ship! Blast them!
It's such a great little firefight. Stormtroopers fire away with little damage while Han and his pistol destroy concrete and still kill at least 2 troopers with just a handful of shots. It's gung-slinging awesome. That's not a phrase anyone has said, but whatever. Alec Guinness just gives out with his seatbelt. Possible inspiration for Jurassic Park? I do love this added CG Falcon launch. It has the kind of shot structure that could be possible back in '76 and looks awesome. The detail on this model is fantastic. That's clearly a crewman in the background. Rest in peace, Jeans guy.
Besides, I know a few maneuvers. We'll lose them.
That was your maneuver? Moving slightly to the left?
Well, I mean, we're not in the same place we were, eh? That ought to confuse them.
Yeah, but you hardly did anything. You just started listing lazily to the left. I'm pretty sure they can keep up.
Where do they go?
There they are. They're listing lazily to the left. Go left, left!
Boy, this guy knows some maneuvers.
Correction, I think that's actually Alec Guinness. That's just a continued shot. Okay, never mind. Moving on. Hyperspace is such a perfect, okay, now breathe from such rapidly escalating tension. It's also another layer of awesome fantasy to this film that says no thanks to science and embraces the insanity of traveling faster than the speed of light. You don't truly realize that we've spent half the movie on or in orbit of Tatooine until they make the jump to hyperspace. You couldn't take a single scene out and hope to keep the same important information the audience has already learned. Leia's trying to be far stronger than she looks, which was already a part of her character, but now she's surrounded by taller, evil men with immense power, completely alone. She resorts back to blind strength and a weird pseudo-British accent, which I think is her intentionally trying to mimic and insult their way of speaking. I think otherwise it's just a weird bit of performance, I guess. I love her anyway, because just like Carrie, she looked young and innocent but had the burning and powerful heart of a wise woman far beyond her years. Leia just lets her hard exterior slip so suddenly when it comes to those that she loves. Her loyalty to love lets us know of her true nature, the way that Peter Cushing says,
"We will deal with your rebel friends soon enough."
There's a reason the Death Star is a repeated thing in Star Wars. It is an ultimate force, ultimate power to command overwhelming destruction with the flick of a switch. It's an iconic and crucially simple design that leads to something supreme and beyond equal. Not only does the Force have a dark side, but if it is created by all living things, it is heartbreakingly disturbed by the sudden extinguishing of billions. Obi-Wan's connection is far stronger than we realized. I love the Harryhausen style animation of another layer of uniqueness to this world. There are games, but they only partially resemble things we're aware of. Dejarik is like chess, but Dungeons and Dragons, I think? Just like R2, you instantly know and love what a Wookiee is, even if you have no idea what he's saying. That little comb their hair and kick back move is so awesome. Always let the Wookiee win.
Remember, a Jedi can feel the Force flowing through him.
You mean it controls your actions?
Partially, but it also obeys your commands.
Symbiosis is the key. I always love that we're all getting small hints of what the Force really is, eager to know more, just as Luke is.
Your eyes can deceive you, don't trust them.
More and more wisdom. It's almost as if he's a wizard.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
I've always loved this awkward edit where the shot holds on just too long, showing that David Prowse kept talking longer than what James Earl Jones's line was, so he just waves his hand around in silence.
I told you she would never consciously betray the rebellion.
Man, hyperspace always looks so freaky.
He's heading for that small moon.
That's no moon. It's a space station.
Could he have already known what this was? Could he have already seen it? Wouldn't be surprised.
I have a very bad feeling about this.
You can't win, but there are alternatives to fighting.
Like what?
Like getting the hell out of here!
Actors clearly looking at nothing but selling the fear all the same. What a frame! The moral photography and blending with matte paintings and real actors, it is the greatest illusion and a pinnacle of visual effects to make people think, how is that not real? Okay, so here's that clear 2001 Space Odyssey parallel I mentioned earlier. Look at the lights and the composition. There is no way Lucas or Richard Edlund or Dennis Muren or John Dykstra or anyone in the effects department didn't consciously think of 2001. They were all former hippies making wacky space effects for movies in the 70s. 2001's re-release was billed as the ultimate trip. Coincidence?
I think not!
If Lucas did watch 2001, he probably marveled at the effects but thought to himself,
and faster, more intensity.
I sense something, a presence I've not felt since...
Who's the more foolish, the fool or the fool who follows it?
Poor Chewie. He gets pets for being a good boy.
Hey down there! Just give us a hand with this?
What did they do with the bodies? Did they smuggle them in those compartments, or did they dump the man into space later?
Your destiny lies along a different path from mine. The Force will be with you, always.
A line so good, it needed to be remastered in stereo.
That old man's mad.
Well, you said it, Chewie.
I love how Han just casually leans on Chewie. There's such a great brotherly conflict building between these two. I love that energy.
Who is he from? Princess Leia.
The princess? She's here?
It's a bit of a coincidence that all of our main characters would be on the Death Star at the same time, but I guess...
All this, as the Force wills it.
She's rich.
That smart play at Han's motivations. Luke is learning how the galaxy really works. It's clear they only had one usable Death Star hallway set. They were just redressed with different panels and doors, but it's like a good stage play. You light it well, and no one will ever really know. Countless times my brothers and I recreated this massive blast of fire everywhere. You get pretty good at going pew pew after the 142nd time.
Who is this? What's your operating number?
Boring conversation anyway.
Luke, we're gonna have company!
Oh, it's so good.
Short for a stormtrooper?
First lines to her savior are a jab. Classic Carrie. I mean, Leia or... Well, they're the same pretty much.
He is here.
Obi-Wan Kenobi. What makes you think so?
There's something so delicious and satisfying about James Earl Jones and Peter Cushing's voices in conversation. I don't care if they probably never spoke to one another. The illusion works.
What the hell are you doing?
Somebody has to save our skins.
Leia is a goddamn badass warrior princess, and she will always have my heart.
She's right. Come on, Chewbacca.
What, are you kidding? It's probably full of disease. I'm not jumping in there.
Not even if I throw this pig's ear?
Oh, come on. That's not fair.
Go get it.
I love how the garbage is clearly painted styrofoam. That must have been very squeaky. They've been together a minute and the classic trio is defined. They're just a bunch of squabbling siblings forced together by circumstance and desperation.
Something just moved past my leg.
Even in a metallic, moon-sized space station, living creatures can still lurk beneath the surface. Countless times reenacting Luke getting sucked down by the Dianoga in the bath or the pool or pretty much any 2-foot body of water.
Got a bad feeling about this.
These guys can't catch a break, can they? What is this place? Some kind of Death Star.
Take over. One thing's for sure, we're all gonna be a lot thinner.
Use the comm link? Oh my! I forgot. I turned it off. Listen to them. They're dying, R2.
3PO, remarkably thick for a droid and fluent in over 6 million forms of communication. That matte painting floor is just magical. Aw, Chewie needs a hug. Someone hug him.
Your worshipfulness.
That's a made-up word. What was made up?
We're right above you. Stand by.
You came in that thing? You're braver than I thought.
Leia takes another jab at her source of rescue. She's the best.
Get back to the ship! Where are you going?
Certainly has courage.
Courage, suicide, stupidity. They're all the same to Han Solo. The scene is always hilarious. And it's improved by adding the massive hangar full of stormtroopers. Good change. Danger is around every corner, guys. How can you not understand this by now? Luke steps up in every moment. Han charges in just to try anything, and Leia is the true leader. Star Wars is the small human moments, like a kiss for luck. All in one take with 2 cameras. Lucky. Another good addition.
Close the blast doors.
Right before,
Open the blast doors.
of course Darth Vader's lightsaber is red. It wouldn't make sense for it to be anything else. There really is something so primal and perfect about Vader and Obi-Wan's clash. It may not be anywhere near as fast or furious as every other lightsaber battle afterwards, and that's okay. It is a bare-bones medieval samurai fight with minimal movement and maximum impact.
You can't win, Darth. If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
I don't know. I can imagine quite a bit.
You should not have come back.
That look that he gives Vader after seeing Luke, he knows exactly what he has to do and has all the faith in what is to come next. Obi-Wan will become more powerful when gone because he leaves behind Vader's downfall. Luke. And this action, ultimate sacrifice to give hope a fighting chance, a true Jedi move. Up until this point, the Force was a vague entity talked about and only seen by a wave of the hand or a clenching of the fingers. but now we can fully visualize its strange, incredible power to send someone beyond death. Where did Obi-Wan go? Why can we hear him? What's going on? Obi-Wan tells Luke to run because he's embracing fear and anger, the dark side. Flying fortress-style gunner positions with open viewing areas for full view of targets. It's excellent production design, even if the defensive range is a little limited. More and more fast and intense model shots creating incredible spectacle and suspense. Movement is the key.
I got him!
Right, kid, don't get penisy!
Damn, those cannons are awesome.
That's it, we did it!
And Chewie gets his first hug, yay! Hugs for Chewie.
Not a bad bit of rescuing, huh? You know, sometimes I amaze even myself.
Han can't take one humble moment, can he? Leia is so much smarter than everyone else. George Lucas isn't known for subtle writing, but this whole dialogue was changed dramatically from the clunky monologues the actors auditioned with. What we get is pared down to its simplest elements of character and story. And just like the couple that fights loudly at a party, there's always going to be that one guy secretly in love with the girl and wants her to know he's a better guy.
I care.
But at best, he gets her saying, "You're such a good friend." I feel that pain.
I don't know. What do you think? Do you think a princess and a guy like me?
No.
Pew, pew. Gotcha.
You want another thing you'll never unsee? The production only built 2 actors scale X-Wing models and 1 Y-Wing. The others are a mix of matte paintings and cutouts, so background actors could walk in front of, behind, or between and give the illusion of depth and scale. All of the later shots of pilots entering multiple ships were just done with these 3 models, shot with different angles and some slight repainting. That is such a smart use of your given budget. That's clearly a flip shot as R2's whole face is on the wrong side. Weird moments like this are always stuff I enjoy. I love how the hidden rebel base is basically a hangar inside what looks like an Aztec temple on a lush jungle world. It's a complete opposite to the Empire in every way, and something we return to with every rebel or resistance base in all the other movies. It's a symbiotic relationship with nature to unconsciously keep them connected with the light side of the Force. There are clearly way more pilots than the ones we see taking off or actually flying the ships. Half of them are falling asleep. Maybe the generals realized last minute there are actually only 3 real ships.
The shaft leads directly to the reactor system. A precise hit will start a chain reaction which should destroy the station. Only a precise hit will set up a chain reaction.
Convenient.
That's impossible, even for a computer.
But it's not impossible. I used to bullseye womp rats in my T-16 back home.
My God, you shoot small animals for fun? That's the first indicator of a serial killer, you freak.
It will be a day long remembered. It has seen the end of Kenobi and will soon see the end of the rebellion.
I love Tarkin's little look at Vader, just like, okay. Jeez, this guy's a bit weird. Han is clearly running away from all responsibilities, muttering later,
I know what I'm doing.
But he doesn't. He never does. Luke isn't scared to face down the whole Empire by himself. He doesn't fear not knowing what's going to come next. He's seen some truth of the galaxy and feels that burning need to do the right thing. And he knows that Han does care. He's seen it. And that leads to that disappointed look that Han just can't ignore. It's a brilliant climax for these characters' relationship in this film.
Besides, attacking that battle station ain't my idea of courage. It's more like suicide.
But we have seen they're essentially the same thing in his mind. He's a little contradictory. Han saying,
"May the Force be with you,"
is intentionally clunky and a little sarcastic because it means nothing without action. Even Chewie seems to call him out on it.
I know what I'm doing.
If it wasn't obvious, I love the way these characters are established and developed. I'm really glad Lucas has kept in the Biggs Darklighter reunion in all the versions since the special edition. Not only is that a great mustache that deserves screen time, but it humanizes the pilots beyond just being about Luke. The designs of the X and Y wings are so smart, patchwork, rusty, rumbling and grimy machines that look like weird World War II prototypes. The Rebellion will obviously do whatever it takes and use whatever necessary to survive. And the Rebellion chooses to have a connection to their droid counterparts in these ships because, well, they really are the heroes of the story. The TIE fighters are just simply a ball with wings, pure efficiency, mass-produced on a terrible scale. I'll say this as an overall point for the finale. The new CG ship footage is another one of those changes that I love. The model photography from before was good, but some of it looks very slow and has never been the kind of standard that Lucas wanted, nor does it compare to the brilliant work done in the next two films. It keeps it updated and consistent with the rest of the photography from the battle. This whole finale is a masterclass in blending all of the wonderful elements from this film: performance, effects, score, sound and editing, creating pulsating tension rendered through jaw-dropping spectacle. No one in 1977 had seen anything like this, and it holds up beautifully.
Red 5, I'm going in.
I have no idea why Luke just started blasting away at a random section of the Death Star, but I love it. I can't say I wouldn't do the same.
I can hold it. Pull up! No, I'm all right.
No, not Porkins. That's a bit of a mean name, but no!
Enemy fighters coming your way.
My scope's negative. I don't see anything.
Pick up your visuals, counting.
You mean eyes? Oh, and Vader can fly. Uh-oh. I love Mark Hamill's performance in this whole battle. Luke has been unlocked now, and his senses are going into overdrive. Obi-Wan Kenobi's uncle! Yay!
He was the best star pilot in the galaxy.
I've always loved Vader's TIE Advanced X1. Of course, he gets a super special and unique TIE fighter to fly around in. The speed of the X-Wings and the sleekness of the Y-Wings, years of my childhood were spent obsessing over these ships, dreaming of them when I closed my eyes. That clever cut from matte painting to model and the frenetic point of view camera zooming with exhilarating speed and energy, it just takes my breath away every time.
Will be in range in 5 minutes.
I will be gushing about it later, but the fact that the editors and specifically Marsha Lucas added the countdown of the Death Star destroying the Rebel base is genius. The battle would not be what it is without the simplest source of suspense, a ticking clock. Williams comes roaring back in to remind you, hey, pay attention, things are gonna get a whole lot better. Alright, last thing you can never unsee, that one stupid hair sticking 2 feet out of Tarkin's head. Did no one on set have scissors?
The size of that thing.
Came from behind. Didn't go in.
Luke, at that speed, would you be able to pull out in time?
The innuendos are strong with this one. A shot so good, they used it twice. It's so refined, every shot has purpose. The detailed cockpits feel so tangible, like every toggle and button is supposed to be there. Tanchan! Tanchan! Tanchan!
Wait!
No, not porn stash. I mean Biggs Darklighter, no!
Use the Force, Luke. Your eyes can deceive you. Don't trust them.
He's nowhere in sight.
And act on instinct.
With the blast shield down, I can't even see. How am I supposed to fight?
I can't see a thing in this helmet.
Even Luke's original introduction is him struggling to watch the dogfight above Tatooine. He just can't see. He struggles to act on instinct. But when the time is right, he simply breathes, listens to Obi-Wan Kenobi's voice, and trusts in the Force. The natural feeling inside that he can do more than what is real. No proper training, no knowledge of what is to come next. Just take the leap of faith and set in motion a chain of events to save the galaxy. This is one of the greatest moments in cinematic history. And only when Luke finally starts to tap into the Force does his enemy realize for the first time the threat that he poses. He couldn't even sense him before.
The Force is strong in this one. I have you now. What?
Look out!
Stupid TIE pilot. That is the definition of a triumphant moment. Gotta love a good praxis wave. Okay. Can I breathe now? Oh boy.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
I always wondered who the last Y-Wing pilot was. I am convinced that Mark Hamill says, hey, but everyone else thinks that he said carry. I just don't get it. Friends, hugs, love.
You must repair him. Sir, if any of my circuits or gears will help, I'll gladly donate.
3PO bags R2 out the whole movie, but he still loves the little guy. Alright, let's go get pissed! That's a nice jacket. I want that jacket. I love Han's look of just like, I don't want to be here. Come on, this is a bit much. Yeah, I know it's similar framing to Triumph of the Will, but it's taking that imagery that was used for propaganda and evil and turns it positive. Star Wars is about seeking to destroy fascism and their symbols, both fictional and real. The smiles that everyone shares just brings tears to my eyes now.
Hans Olo? Come on.
Mine just says participant.
Nice. Give that walking carpet a damn medal. Happy little waddle. Luke is delighted, Han is embarrassed, and Leia looks out overall, confident in her hope and faith for a brighter galaxy tomorrow. Oh boy, that was way longer than I originally thought. Turns out, yeah, I kinda like this movie. And I could never mention everything that is truly great about it. How about a story? Last year, I took my whole family to see this film at a cinema. We were the only ones there, sat in the recliner row pretty close to the front, and spent most of the time pointing out silly things or throwing back to parodies we've seen dozens of times before. I have such reverence for Star Wars and what it created, but it isn't beyond a few jokes at its expense. No one making it really thought it would turn out like it did. The British crew all around Lucas thought it was some silly children's movie. The script never looked or sounded like the epic that Lucas was probably pitching it as. So yeah, you have a few weak extras, some cheesy moments, and several bits where everyone probably thought, don't worry, no one will notice. And we took plenty of cracks at some of the bizarre retroactive changes. But here's the thing, when my family and I were watching this on the big screen, the jokes and jabs came quick in the first half, but then we started getting quieter as the action increased. By the time X-Wings and Y-Wings were roaring into frame, chased down by TIE fighters, we didn't say a word. The entire finale was left to happen as it intended because it is a magical sequence capable of bringing you closer and closer, never letting go until the massive explosion reminds you you stopped breathing about 20 minutes ago. This whole film is simple storytelling and works brilliantly because of that. George Lucas saw there were no modern myths in the 70s. Westerns had died out, modern leaders and symbols were ravaged by war and corruption. And even the might and majesty of human space endeavors were losing their impact. The only choice in his mind was to look further back and farthest away, using the monomyth to tell a story everyone could identify with in some way, good and evil. The hero's journey, and Lucas wears that Joseph Campbell influence loud and proud, yet it's missing a whole section, the return. That would have to come later because not everyone was willing to sit through a 200-page original draft. So, to fill in what's left in the writing, Lucas drew upon the only other things he knew about: westerns, samurai films, serials from the 1940s and 50s, Dune, 2001: A Space Odyssey, and dozens of other fantasy and science fiction tropes pulling together into his script. Always borrow from the best. But he wasn't writing a book. You need a visual translation to make a film, so enters Ralph McQuarrie, who creates practically everything we know and love to look at with Star Wars. Ships, weapons, costumes, landscapes, distinguishing colors, even the specific framing to emphasize relationships and importance. Anyone making this movie had any trouble understanding what any of this was supposed to look like, Lucas would just hold up any number of Macquarie's paintings and say, this. Gilbert Taylor and his camera crew, for all of their disagreements with Lucas, crafted a classical look for each shot. Besides one handheld sequence and frenetic point-of-view shots for the ships in the finale, the camera remains on a lockdown tripod, panning and tilting in simple and steady movements, left to right, up and down. Lucas doesn't need fancy camera tricks for his shots. Just get the necessary information in there, keep moving forward. Emphasize scale, central framing, and clever lighting. Draw upon how Kurosawa used CinemaScope for his later films, or how he used color and nature to distinguish environments, most beautifully in Dersu Uzula. Or look at how John Ford and David Lean shot deserts. Beautifully simple and vastly effective. The visual effects were invented for this film. Nothing here had existed with anywhere near the kind of focus and speed Lucas was requiring. What we get, again, may not be perfect by today's standards, but it is why we have what we have today. Motion control cameras, detailed models, and chroma keying to literally create the impossible. Industrial Light and Magic are the kings of visual effects today for a reason. For the costuming, use simple colors to distinguish light from dark and anything in between. I've seen this film more times than I can remember and only just realized in my research something new thanks to CinemaWins. Luke and Leia are dressed in white and Vader is in all black, but then Han is in black and white, and the stormtroopers are in fake white armor merely covering the darkness underneath. Luke and Leia are our heroes, Vader is the villain, Han is caught in between, and the stormtroopers are designed to be symbols of heroism and virtue, but are really evil underneath. It's brilliant. Same goes with production design, clear distinguishment of which side is which and all that in between. But they made every single panel, prop, costume and interactive substance feel real and purposeful. This world has existed a long time and feels as such, even if a few things were just rubber glued to plywood. Good enough. But Macquarie didn't draw sound. So you get Ben Burt to create an organic soundtrack full of life and bursting ambition to do things no one had ever heard before. Strike wires with tools, record magnets hovering over broken TVs, mix a baby bear with a lion and capture every kind of engine sound you can think of. He is truly a master of his craft and the film reflects as such. And then there's the secret sauce. Put everything together, and it's just not there yet until John Williams comes in to give every frame life, love, character, and story. Without his music, it isn't Star Wars. Just like George Lucas, borrow from the best, mix it all together, and you create the greatest film themes of all time. And this is still leaving out three people who I think are the real champions and made all of this work in tandem perfectly. The editors, Paul Hirsch, Richard Chew, and Marshall Lucas. They turned what was called an unwatchable rough assembly into the finely tuned work of art we all love. Cut out anything that either interrupts the pace of sequences, like Luke's life on Tatooine before his real intro, or scenes that repeat information we already know, like the Jabba the Hutt scene. They pared everything they could down to the simplest and most important elements to create the amazing flow of information that feels so right and then kept going. The choice to make the entire finale centered around a ticking clock is why it is so damn tense. Star Wars is a masterclass in editing, not because it is perfect, but because it miraculously works. For all that I love, the experience of watching this is always tainted by the fact that we can never truly watch the original version in an official high-definition release. What we have is a mix of special edition DVD and Blu-ray changes, or the memories of seeing it in the 70s for others. And there's a few retrospective holes opened up because of other films and media. CGI rocks. Why? This sound. Why? I mentioned it before, but why all of these shots of stupid background antics in Mos Eisley? Move! I can't see the movie! He's dodging a laser? What's going on with his arm? There's nothing I like about the Jabba the Hutt scene. It goes beyond the wonky CGI that might be a vast improvement today than the 1997 job, but it's because the dialogue is just a repeat of Han and Greedo's conversation 2 scenes before. What new information is gained from this? We as the viewer are all the lesser for it as Jabba's true entrance into the franchise is ruined. Then to add insult to injury, they poorly composed Boba Fett in to look directly at the camera. This one might be a bit of a cheat, but Leia comforts Luke after Obi-Wan's death, even though...
Oh, did the 80-year-old man you just met yesterday die? I mean, sorry if I didn't notice. I was a little busy thinking about my entire family and the other 2 billion people from Alderaan who were just vaporized into dust about 3 hours ago.
And since reading Claudia Gray's Leia, Princess of Alderaan, the planet she called home and the family that adopted her are described in such wonderful beauty in those pages that I long for a greater emotional response from Leia. Luke and Leia could have comforted each other over their shared grief. It's a curse of context that sometimes holes are revealed where once they were thought invisible. And my last criticism, Lucas and his re-release team sought to remaster the sound, but only ended up doing a partial job at turning the original mono audio into stereo. The result changes wildly during some scenes and makes little sense.
What with the rebellion and all?
You know of the rebellion against the Empire?
There you go. Wait a minute, where'd she go? Bring her back. Play back the entire message.
How long before you can make the jump to light speed?
Take a few moments to get the coordinates from the navigator. We're losing their deflector shield. Both strap yourselves in. I'm going to make the jump to light speed.
You mean it controls your actions?
Partially, but it also obeys your commands. In my experience, there's no such thing as luck.
Look, good against remotes is one thing.
Either do it all in stereo or clean up the original mono audio. It's rather frustrating. Because of these things, Star Wars isn't a perfect film and remains incomplete. I've made my own version, removing the changes I can't stand while keeping several I enjoy. That's just going to have to be enough for now. And thus, on the flip side of that, it wants you to keep watching over and over again and create your own stories. We must accept the film for what it is and try not to think our versions are better, but this is fantasy that breeds fantasy. We can see ourselves in these characters, be invested in this universe and want more. What really was the Clone Wars? How can the Jedi be extinct? What happened to Anakin and Vader? What happened the last time Vader and Obi-Wan met? What is going to happen next for these characters after the movie ends? So many questions, but they don't feel unanswered. This is your first step into a larger world, but are still being told a complete story first. No one really thought they were going to get a sequel at the time. Lucas had ideas, but he needed to make the introduction work. Plant the seed deep before harvesting the fruits. Tell a good first story and see where it goes from there. Because of amazing collaborations with true masters of their craft and effective compromises to realize a genius vision, this film is one of the greatest filmmaking achievements in cinematic history. And these have been 340 things that I love about Star Wars.